She handed me a packed bag, my own bag, packed by her hands, sitting by the front door of the house that my salary paid for, in the city I moved to for my husband's career, in the life I had quietly, patiently built for 6 years. She looked at me the way you look at furniture you've decided to throw out, not with hatred exactly, just a complete absence of regard. And she said, "Your parents have space. You should stay with them for a while." My sister's family needs a place, and you know how family is. I stared at that bag for a long moment. Then I looked up at her, and I smiled. "My name is Brandy. I'm 34 years old. I'm a corporate finance manager. And for 6 years, I was the woman nobody in that household ever fully saw. Let me tell you how we got to that hallway. When I married Kofi, I knew his mother, Auntie Rose, that's what everyone called her, was the kind of woman who fills a room. Loud laughter, big opinions, total control over her son's emotional world. I told myself that was fine. I told myself I would earn her respect the old-fashioned way, through patience and consistency and showing up. I cooked, I cleaned, I contributed financially in silence because making it visible felt crass. When she moved in with us after her retirement, I said nothing. When she rearranged my kitchen, I adjusted. When she told Kofi that I was too cold, too focused on work, not warm enough, I bit the inside of my cheek and focused on my breathing. Small moments. The kind that don't look like anything when you describe them to someone else. She'd introduce me at family gatherings as Kofi's wife, never by name, never as Brandy, just a title attached to her son like I was an accessory he'd picked up. She'd tell stories about Kofi's childhood with this deliberate wistfulness, as if she was reminding him of a better time before me. Once, at Christmas dinner with 15 people at the table, she made a comment about how she wished Kofi had settled down with a girl who actually knew how to be present, someone who didn't live with her head in spreadsheets. Everyone laughed. I smiled. That was the thing about me that she never understood. She mistook my stillness for weakness. She thought my smile meant I was okay. She never once considered that Brandy was simply watching and waiting and keeping very careful records. Here's what Auntie Rose did not know about our financial situation. Kofi and I had a joint account for household expenses, yes. But the house, the mortgage, the deed, the entire structural foundation of the life we lived in, was in my name alone. When we bought it, Kofi's credit score was rebuilding after a rough patch in his late 20s, and I had been the one to qualify for the loan. We never transferred it. Life moved fast. We just never got around to it. She also didn't know that the supplemental account, the one she had access to through a card Kofi gave her for household needs when she moved in, was funded exclusively by my paycheck. Every month, I transferred a set amount into that account for groceries, utilities, household supplies. It was Brandy's money flowing into it every single month like clockwork. When she handed me that bag and told me to go stay with my parents so she could move her sister's family in, a family of 3 adults, I smiled because something clarified inside me. Not rage, something much quieter than rage. It felt like a door closing gently but permanently. The kind of sound you notice in the silence after it happens. I drove to my parents' house that evening. My mother took one look at my face and didn't ask questions. She just made tea and sat across from me at the kitchen table. I opened my laptop and I made 2 phone calls and I sent 4 emails. And then I slept better than I had in months. The first thing I did was call the bank. I suspended the transfer to the household account, the one that funded Auntie Rose's grocery card. Simple, clean, reversible if I chose. I also notified my bank that I would be temporarily restricting access pending a legal review of the household arrangements, which was enough for them to flag the account for a brief hold. The second thing I did was email my attorney, who I had consulted quietly 3 months earlier when things started escalating. She confirmed what I already suspected. As the sole legal owner of the property, I had significant standing regarding who resided in it. Inviting 3 additional adults to occupy a property without the owner's knowledge or consent was, to put it plainly, not Auntie Rose's call to make. The third thing I did was text Kofi, calmly and without emotion. I think we need to talk about the living arrangement your mother has proposed. I've reached out to our attorney to understand our options. His response came in 11 minutes. It was 3 question marks. The next morning, my phone started vibrating before 8 o'clock. Auntie Rose, calling, then calling again. I let it go to voicemail the first 3 times. By the fourth call, I answered. She was not calm. Her voice was the kind of high, brittle pitch that comes when someone who has never been denied anything suddenly hits a wall. What is this? The card isn't working. I went to the grocery store 3 times, and it's declining. What did you do? Did you block the card? What are we supposed to eat? I kept my voice even. I told her that effective immediately, I had suspended the automatic transfer to that account, and that I had done so because I was no longer in residence at the home I owned, having been asked to leave to accommodate guests I had not agreed to host. I told her that any ongoing household expenses could be discussed as part of a broader conversation about the living arrangements she had decided to make on my behalf. Silence. The kind that has texture. Then, Kofi will hear about this. He already knows, I said. He has my attorney's contact information. I don't need to tell you what the next 3 days looked like in that family's group chat, because I wasn't in it for most of it. What I know is that Kofi called me 4 times in 1 hour, that his aunties and cousins started texting me directly, some with outrage, some, interestingly, with something that sounded almost like respect. That Auntie Rose's sister's family never actually moved in, because Kofi, faced with the legal reality of what his mother had set in motion, told her it wasn't happening. Kofi and I had the long, painful conversation we should have had 2 years earlier. I won't pretend it wrapped up cleanly. Marriages are not revenge stories. They're more complicated and more exhausting than that. But what shifted in that conversation was fundamental. For the first time, he had to reckon with the fact that his mother's comfort had come at a direct, documented cost to me, and that Brandy had been absorbing it, in silence, for years. I went home 11 days later. On my terms, with clear agreements in place, with a revised household account structure, and with an understanding between Kofi and me that I could not continue in a home where I was treated as an inconvenience in my own space. Auntie Rose and I do not have the same relationship we had before. I suspect we never will. She is polite to me now in the way people are polite to someone they finally realized holds cards they didn't know existed. It's not warmth, but it's honest, and I find I prefer honesty to performance. What I want you to understand, if you take anything from this story, is that I did not set out to punish anyone. I simply stopped protecting them from the consequences of their own choices. I stopped absorbing. I stopped smiling past the point where the smile was honest. The quiet ones, the overlooked ones, the women who sit at the end of Christmas tables absorbing casual cruelties and saying nothing. Sometimes they're not passive. Sometimes they're just waiting for the moment when patience becomes strategy. Brandy was never the soft one. I was just the one who didn't need you to know that, until I did.